Hey, this is Rebecca Dirks for PremierGuitar.com. We are here with Mike Hickey checking out Joe Bonamassa's rig for the 2013 kind of spring-summer tour. It's always changing, so we should probably be pretty
specific. Every weather cycle is involved in this tour.
In fact, you just told me that something actually changed today. So we are catching this moment in time of Joe's rig.
Yes.
And one of the guitars he's using is this 335 here?
Yes, this is the Bonamassa Signature 335, and it's got the official "What's my name? Where do I live?" name inlay on there, and it also helps to make you confuse which notes you're playing. Very cool. And I think it's a limited run. It doesn't, the model itself doesn't have this on it. This is only this one. So we use this for one of the bluesier tunes that won't be played tonight. They'll either be burst buckers or Bonabuckers, Duncan Bonabuckers. I'm really not sure. Basically, we got this, pulled it out, strung it up, and put it to work. So everything works on it. So that's the cool thing.
Okay. So everything is stock on it other than, same as you would buy.
Except the knobs. These are some, and the switch tip are some replica knobs from crazy parts in Germany.
Just for the feel.
Well, yeah, just for something to do when we're bored, really.
Right. So what else is he using? Because we've got a whole lot to go through here.
All right here, this is a great one. This is the 64 ES335 in cherry. Very similar to a Eric Clapton with cream vibe. One of the best sounding guitars we have, very vibrant and very aggressive sounding guitar. And Joe's been using this for a few songs where he wants to get a little crazy. And this is a great guitar.
What songs does he want to get a little crazy?
He likes to get crazy on a song called Yonder's Wall. It's kind of a takeoff on a blues thing with a little Miles Davis freeform thing going on, and then he gets off in here going crazy. And sometimes he uses it for Ballad of John Henry, which is almost kind of more of the hard rock song, And but it's a great guitar all the way around, and it's stock.
You guys don't change any of the capacitors, nothing?
No, not unless something's wrong. I mean, if this thing's perfect right out of the box.
All right.
In 64. A guitar here called Treasure. And this was given to us by a fan, and he bought it new when he was a kid. And this is a 63, I think, Firebird 1 without the tremolo, which is a rarity. And we use this capoed at the 2nd fret for a song called Slow Train. And so you're in F sharp. And this is a Japanese bridge because it actually just plays better with this compared to the original. And it's a great guitar and a great gift. And what we decided, we can't take a gift like this really, so we're just borrowing it until we're done rocking out with it. And the guy's really cool to do that. And he gets to come hang out and rock out with us all the time.
All right, so that's if you want to hang out with Joe Bonamassa and rock out with him.
Vintage Gibson.
Give him a vintage Gibson.
Absolutely.
That's not too difficult right there.
No, they show up all the time. This is a, I'm going to think it's a 66 Firebird 1. I don't know if it's non-reverse, reverse. I get those confused all the time. This is used with for the song Young Man's Blues, which is a Who cover. And it's got the P90s. And again, it's stock. And it's in a color, it's Polaris white, which we also have an SG from 62 in that color, which is taking this tour off. And this is a tuning nightmare right here.
I'm sure.
So once it's in his hands, it's his problem.
All right.
And here we have a guitar called Koss, as in Paul Kossoff. And this is a historic makeover. And it's a replica of a stripped 59 that Paul Kossoff had. And we use this for the song Driving Towards the Daylight, capoed on the 1st fret for F. And that's a fun guitar. Without the capo, it's a lot more fun.
Why is that?
Well, then you can just get ripping on it, And what historic makeovers do is they take your historic and they recarve the top, rebind it, reboard it, new truss rod, recarve your neck, refinish it, and then beat the hell out of it, and makes your historic Les Paul a great historic Les Paul.
And then that's done in the Gibson Custom Shop?
Oh, no. In
I
Florida
see.
by Historic Makeovers.
Oh, Historic Makeovers is the actual company. Okay.
Yeah. So you take your Historic, and then you send it down there, and they whack it up, and you can see the top carve is really. I don't know if you're familiar with a 50s top carve versus a modern one, but this is closer. And they took measurements off one of Joe's 59s for the neck shape. So it's very similar. And they do really good finish work. And it's a fun guitar.
So is all of the wear on that patterned after?
That's what was on Kossoff's stripped burst. And if you look it up, you'll see that wear pattern. It's pretty cool. That one's a good one.
Awesome.
And then we have a Collector's Choice Historic. This guitar is called Ronnie, because a friend of ours named Ronnie owns it and is loaning it to us. And it's a replica of Joe's 1960 Les Paul, which we call Batman because of the bridge. And this is serial number 1. And it's really dark up there, but that's the first in the Collector's Choice series. The first one they stamped. And we use this for the song Dust Bowl, capoed on the 5th fret. And then you're in the key of A.
So is this a run?
Yes. Collector's Choice. They're doing all those. There's about 900 of them.
They're the ones that are patterned after the
Famous
bursts.
bursts, right? So this was a collector before Joe owned the actual burst. This deal was done, but our friend owned that burst, and so he gave us this to use. There's a lot of very kind people, in the guitar collecting world.
The one that it's modeled after, Joe owns now.
He does own it, yes.
And what is there anything special about the electronics on that 61?
No, there's probably burst buckers of some sort, and it's just as it came. All I've ever done is put strings on it and a capo.
Not too, lazy with all of these many
Here's
guitars.
a real favorite right here. This is the Ernie Ball Dark Morse, I think it's called. It's a reverse headstock Steve Morse model, and we use it for the song Mountain Time. It's tuned to drop D, and it's got a baked maple neck, and we just use it for that one song, mainly for the access for the volume swells, and also it's got a really nice sound. I believe these are DiMarzios in here. And they're pretty ballsy. Here's another historic makeover. This started out as a prototype Bonamassa gold top with a Bigsby. And it's hollow, fully hollow. I don't know. I'm not going to hurt the finish. And our friend at Historic Makeovers did this and used a real Bigsby, an old one, and he copied the bridge from that one as a little tribute. And Joe just installed these pickups recently, a few weeks ago, himself, because I'm not good at soldering. And these are called flame tones. A friend of ours in Italy makes them with all the correct parts of a PAF and aged 60-year-old magnets, and they sound okay. But you can see some of more of their relic work at Historic Makeovers.
And they did the neck too?
They did the whole thing. And that's his birthday, the serial number. So if you want to send any gifts, that's the day to do it. Red wine and Les Pauls. So this guitar is only here as a backup for the Dust Bowl guitar. And so the key thing is never to pull this out, because that means everything's going great. Now let's get down to real business here. This is Spot. Spot is a 59 Les Paul, and it's been refretted, and the pickup covers are off, exposing the double white PAFs. This guitar is in Beauty of the Burst and has a long history amongst various collectors, and you can see it's a road dog. We play it every day and rock the hell out of it. It's an amazing instrument, probably one of the greatest Les Pauls ever made in the world right here. And vibrant sounding, and obviously that top that's what you're after. That's a big top. We would call that an Uber burst.
So where did Joe find this?
This came through our friend Ronnie again. Sometimes the dudes want to let some go to the players, and this is a great one. It used to have a Bigsby at one time. It's got a couple little marks there. And so
the pickup covers, did Joe take those off, or were they off?
This is as it was, as we got it. It was already refretted, and the covers were already off.
Bigsby was already off.
The big, long gone. Probably in the 80s, they took that off, I would imagine.
Like, oh, what have we done?
I mean, I know a few guys who've owned this guitar.
Oh, okay.
So does Joe. And maybe if we put them all together, we'll get the whole story. But it's a great guitar, and we're very lucky to be in a position to have something like it.
So is that one of the main ones that he's using throughout the night then?
This will be used for the encore.
Okay.
And only because we want to use them all. Now this one has a nice story too. This guitar is out of South Africa. This is a 1960 burst. And if you notice, there's a little mark here. Mm-hmm. The fellow who had it in Africa glued a Gibson amp logo on there. Silver logo, like in the 60s and the late 50s. And so that was on there. And it had these funny tuners. You can almost see the outline. They look like cheap off a Kent or a K guitar from the 60s. So the tuners are obviously changed at one point. This is a slim neck compared to the 59. And we call this one the runt because most people, you go off 60 and then the real cats are like 59, So this one's awesome too. It's a explosive guitar. You don't want to put it down ever.
So did you guys put tuners back on it, or were they already?
No, we got this in Germany from a friend of ours at a place called Guitar Point, and he had already taken the thing off maybe and put the cloisons back on it, and it's missing a screw, but we're too busy to worry about that. I want to get a real one. That's why I don't want to just
a real screw,
a real 60 screw. In fact, I'm going to have that happen in the next few days. But this is a great guitar, and we've been using it for a couple songs. So that's a 60. And you'll see, if just so you know the difference of what's going on, the 60s stay red because they changed the paint. It was fading in the windows, so they changed the dye so it would be UV resistant. So you'll see later in 60, the guitars start turning this color, staying this color, and the other ones fade like Spot. And Spot, you'll notice, had a dark band, and that's the Spot. That was a dark, like tobacco burst, and now it's not.
So, tonally, the difference. What do you see as the difference between like a 59 to the 60?
The 60's got a shorter neck tenon, and the thinner neck, and it seems to have a little more twang to it. And the 59's more rock and bold. The 60 might be a little more crisp. This guitar is called Principal Skinner, and it gets that name because it came from Skinner Auction House, and so this was called the Skinner Burst. And this is another highly flamed 59, and it's stock except for the refret. We had Joe Glazier in Nashville refret a couple of these, and he does wonderful. As you can see, he didn't touch the wood once. All the divots are there from all the years of shredding and twanging and whatever. So, and he used the Plek machine, which some people aren't into, but from what I can tell, I'm very happy with how this thing plays. And the only thing we do is we add a second set of thumb screws under there to keep the bridge from moving back and forth at all. Just gives it a little more stability. And you'll see that on a lot of bursts, and older cats in the scene had them. And this one's been played a lot. I think much of its work was done in maybe a country band or something right about there. Rock dudes are down here, so that's the Rockware, But this guitar is fantastic. He'll rock this tonight. And we changed the tuners just to have more stability.
Okay, so what did you change those to?
These are a company called Martin 6-String Customs out of Texas, I think. And just something we picked up at the Philly Guitar Show and threw them on, and they worked good. And this guitar stays in tune incredibly. It goes into tune on its own almost. It's amazing. But we're lucky, extremely lucky to have this around. So you see how it's faded? It's just like golden.
Yeah, it doesn't have
It had red, It did. Under here,
still red?
There's red under there. I don't think we can really see it. See it? A little bit?
Yep. Yeah. If we can pick it up on the camera, but
it's kind of exciting.
So what does he pick this 59 for versus the other 59? I mean, because when you have two 59 bursts to choose from.
Tonight, for Yonder's Wall and John Henry, he'll use this instead of the 335. Okay. He'll use this for the bluesier or the rock songs. I mean, all these guitars, they'll do anything, 0 to 60, you know.
Just whatever he's feeling like grabbing
and we like to juggle them around so that
make sure everybody gets some love.
Then I can restring some more guitars, you know.
I'm sure that you really...
I love doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite thing.
You're like, Joe, use more guitars.
Yeah. I think we're only going to have like 14 changes tonight. And I know I don't want you to get too excited, but...
I've been waiting.
I know you've been waiting for this. The crowd's always waiting for this. This is the, hopefully one of a kind. This is the baritone and regular 6-string. Music Man... I don't know what model it would be. It's some takeoff on Steve Morse, I think. But we've got a baritone on the bottom, tuned to B, and then standard tuning on E. And he uses this for a song called Dislocated Boy, which has a B tuning, but he wants to be able to do all the ripping up here, so you know he can just do it on this and play it normal. So that's a fun one, and the crowd likes it, and nice flame top on that. And
everybody loves the double neck.
Everyone loves a spectacle, you know.
It's got to be a little bit disappointing when, you know, you bring out the 59s and then it's just like, oh, and then you bring out the double neck and everybody's like, yeah.
Well, it's
now people know.
They know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cats who come and that know what's going on, and we have a thing we do. We reach out to burst owners to come and visit us.
Oh, nice.
And we've been all over the world. People have been bringing us bursts to borrow, to play, or just to look at. Some guys don't want to play them. They don't want them out of the house. Like in a couple days, we're going to an undisclosed location to see 3. So we ordered a car and we're going to go and find these bursts. So we've seen about 75 in the past year.
So Joe's really had his hands on a lot of them, and he appreciates his, I'm sure.
We just were in London and we had Peter Green, Gary Moore burst. Oh, yeah. That came to us. Rory Gallagher's Strat came to us. Wow. And we used it at Royal Albert Hall. Nice. Of course, we like to put them to work. Yeah. And our friend Bernie Marsden, he has a burst which is also going to be a collector's choice called the Beast. He brought that down. So we just had like the gazillion-dollar vault for that day, you know. And the vault, you have to dig the vault. It's the biggest one. Yes. You know. Beautiful. The Ultra case.
So is this generally the amount of guitars that Joe takes around?
Yeah, and we used to take a few more, but we don't need them. You know, we've got our dance planned out on how we're gonna swap. If something goes wrong, I have a backup somewhere in here, and other than that, you know, he'll just have to wait a minute until I figure out. Okay, here I come. You're all set. So
before we jump to the acoustics,
kryptonite.
Before we jump to the kryptonite, with the electrics, kind of what kind of a setup does Joe prefer in terms of string action and the gauges?
11 to 52, Ernie Ball, just regular, and sometimes we've tried out some of the cobalts too, and the action's fairly high to most people. But I think it's not that high at all for people who play a lot.
Yeah, Joe plays a lot.
All the time. And, the more you play, you want more resistance because you're getting, looser about it. And I find a light string with a low setup is hindering versus being able to dig into one of these and really let it smoke. Just when you want to get ripping, it's a little more work, you know. You gotta know where you're headed, or else there'll be some suspicious notes in there. Gibson, I'm gonna have to look inside because it's even burning my hands having an acoustic. It's a songwriter. We've used this on tour for ages as a main guitar. On this tour, it's a backup guitar. It's a real rugged. Sounds okay, you know. I mean, when you plug in an acoustic, it's a toss-up. So
what are the electronics on this one? Is it?
This is the Fishman that just comes in it with a free Gibson logo, and this is a good sounding, good rugged, just standard guitar to play. So this is my de facto backup for acoustic. which I would have to retune. Some semi-professionals would have backups for everything, but we like to have a little fun with it. Like, what if? What if you're in open C and this is in E? So then we have 4 Alvarez acoustic deals. These are the WY1 model, and these are real rugged, good sounding, stay in tune nicely. The reason we've chosen these is this system. We had a few with it, and it was consistent, because this sounds different than this, and this new Alvarez thing sounds different than these, and I think that's a Bags or something.
Yeah, it's the
or
B-band.
Yeah. These sound okay. We wanted to get a consistent thing. So generally I'm going to use 3 acoustics at a show, and I'll retune as we go. This one will start in drop D. It'll end up in standard. This one will end up capo 3, capo 1. This one stays open D. This stays open C. And they're all just this WY1 model, and we just had good luck with them. This one's pretty cool to look at. Yeah. It's got a free scratch on there for you.
So what are the acoustic songs that he's playing on this tour?
They vary, but like tonight it'll be Seagull, Jelly Roll, Jockey Full of Bourbon, Athens to Athens, and then Woke Up Dreaming, which is like his little guitar solo deal. And like, we won't use this. But for instance, this C tuning is like a C chord with the G on the bottom, so you get. But you can only play stuff. There's only a couple things you can do with that tuning, okay. but he does them well. That's a nice looking top on there.
So when he did the acoustic tour, he was going out with vintage guitars on that one, right?
We had like 12 guitars, which I had to leave on stands.
But you didn't bring any of those stands here.
Right, I didn't bring any stands with me, and I would use the Snark, because I didn't have anything to plug into. They were real acoustics, and so I used the Snark because when close enough is good enough, and it's good enough. And I'd leave a Snark out there for Joe. Like, you feel free to use that anytime, because once you put out a bunch of guitars on a stage, but by the time he gets around the horn, something might have shifted.
And you're kind of out of the mix at that point.
Kind of out. Once the show started, I was kind of out. We just had a couple changes. Whereas tonight I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14 changes.
So that's almost every song. There's a couple that have 2.
It's like being with Cheap Trick in 1979 or something.
Well, I mean, if you have these guitars, you want to play them, I'm sure.
Rockford, of all places.
It's true, right? But most of the guitars that he was playing on the acoustic tour aren't these ones. Those are back somewhere else.
They were in our storage or at home, and there was like a couple of Martin early, like a 71, 72 D41. There's 2 of those. There's an old Martin 017, a 70s Gallagher Dreadnought. We had some newer Gibsons. They sent us some J45 thing, a J200. Oh, and I must not leave out the Grammer Johnny Cash model, which is probably the craziest guitar that we had over there. It's like a greenish color. It just happens to sound great, The Grammer Guitar Company. Who knew?
What is Joe plugging these into?
We're plugging this into a Vintech, I want to say it's an X73i. I might have to look that up. There's a compressor and a tube preamp, and it's from the Vintech custom shop. So it just breathes a little more air into these. It just gives them a little more oomph and makes them sound a little more acoustic because of the
going for as natural as you can try to get plugged in. That's one of those pursuits that will go on and on.
Yeah, over and over and over. It's always a problem trying to make an acoustic guitar sound acoustic.
So for you guys right now, you're liking this Alvarez system with the Vintech,
which they don't make anymore, which is fine.
Well, Joe doesn't seem to have a problem acquiring older guitars, so you guys should be all right.
And he could play anything, and you give him a Gibson, a Fender, and anything. You had mentioned Strats earlier. Right now we don't have any Strats. We just did some gigs with Strats. We did a show at a place called the Borderline, and it was power trio. So there's a lot of Strat action there. Joe's got a beautiful 63 Rosewood Strat Sunburst. It's got a couple of nice blackguard tellies that are just smoking, you know.
I think he said in our interview he just picked up a 51 telly.
58. Oh, yeah. Oh, and the 51 telly. That thing's clean. Really clean.
Is he playing that out?
We don't have.
I mean, not here.
We don't have that with us. We have used it live though, and yeah, I first saw that in the alley behind the Baked Potato in L.A. You know, a lot of cool vintage guitar shit goes on back there in the alley, and because cats all come hang out and go, dude, look what I got. You know, it's really fun, and the telly's cool, and we just, you know, we picked up another Strat the other day. I mean, occasionally we see the right guitar, and I mean, we can't buy them all because then we'd have to work every day. You know,
instead of 70% of the days.
Yeah, we tour a lot.
So with all the guitars, there's no switching out of electronics or components or any
Not
tweaking
really.
like that?
I mean, once in a while, you know, like when our friend made those pickups, we just wanted to try them, you know, and it's kind of a, if it isn't broke, let's just pretend we didn't even see that happen. You know, we'll just leave it. And of course, with the 59s and the 60, we want those as stock as possible. And we want the PAF sound. We want the microphonic pickup. You know, we don't want potted pickups and noise gate or, you know, onboard fuzz tone or any of that cool stuff.
Why is it that he prefers Gibson's Les Pauls on stage generally now over the Strats?
I think it gives him more of his own identity with all the other young cats who play blues rock. You have a lot of Stratocasting going on, a whole bunch of it, you know, the initials on the strap, the whole 9 yards. So I think by him going, well, you know what, I'm gonna go with my Les Paul sound. He sounds nothing like those cats, you know, nothing like those guys.
A little beefier sound.
Yeah. It's a humbucking pickup. You gotta love it, you know. I got a C note for anything with a humbucker. No problem. Plywood, maple, rose, I don't care. This is the kitchen sink drawer if you want to see how it started out clean. These here, some of them are from Grolsch, but I have, there they are, Brewcraft.
Oh, so they make these. You can buy these.
Yeah, it's like home brewing.
Oh.
And then when we're in Europe, and well, you can see I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many beers? Okay. And so that, yeah, that's what we use for strap locks, so we don't have to change them. And on regular guitars, there may be a Dunlop, you know, a Dunlop strap lock deal.
Sure.
But we don't put it on the strap. We just put it over and just stick it on there. And it rattles and makes noise through the amp. It's really cool.
All right.
What I usually do for stringing is I do a rotation because the guitars only get played for one song. So I'll do the bursts a lot more. And this guitar has some heavy bending, so I might just change the high E every day.
Do you do the burst more because he plays them harder, or just?
Yeah, and because we have them with us a lot, so I'm playing it, he's playing it, we're passing them around the room, and we're just beating on them all night too, you know, because this doesn't stop just because the gig's over. We're geeking out the whole time. Right. You know, like today we went to a pawn shop, we went to a guitar shop, you know, I bought a junk Strat thing, telly thing, some junk, and Joe got a harmonica sign,
right.
Big Hohner harmonica.
So what's he using?
These are the Bonamassa picks, and they're in Herco gold, and we're the only ones with the gold doubloons.
Are those Dunlop?
Yes, Jazz 3s. We tried silver, glow in the dark, and of course the red, which we've all enjoyed for years. And there's something this feels right or sounds right, or neither of them. Maybe we just like it because it's gold.
There's like the maybe point.
The point's
be
fantastic.
A little bit
I mean,
articulation or something.
Yeah, this pick. I mean, and you'll see a lot of cats who use these. You give one of these to someone and they start using it, they can't go back to the tortilla chips, you know. And a lot of good players, you know, prefer this pick. John McLaughlin, Eric Johnson, Vernon Reed. I'm sure there's others. And it's just a great pick. Great for articulate playing, you know, for getting right in tight. Okay, the basic signal chain. We hit the wah, the Bonawah, stock. Then it goes into the super trem. Then, I'm not sure. I think it goes into the custom-made Dave Friedman splitter box there. and then it splits out. That's where it goes in. It goes into the box, splits out to the Fuzz Face, which goes to channel A and to the main out. And then the Fuzz Face, the Pork Loin, the Tube Screamer, the Microflanger, and the Bonamassa FET Driver, which is coming out soon. Those are all ganged in front. The digital delay, the DD3, is in the loop of the secret weapon amp, which you'll see in a second. And the Hughes and Kettner is also in the loop, the Rotosphere. These boxes are to split it and isolate it so you don't get ground loops. And the way it's set up is we used to have 3 amps, 3 settings with 4 amps, 2 on at all times. So it's set up, we can still do that if we want to, but right now we're just using 2 amps.
Is that a new version of his Fuzz Face?
Yes, they were having trouble with the copper, I think. So we've gone with the...
So the casing's the only thing that's different.
Yeah, it's all still the same. Makes your sound go crazy.
and
then the FET driver, which I know is on your mind.
Yes.
That's a new thing coming out with MXR shortly, and it's kind of like based on a tube driver without a tube.
Do you have any stereo effects in there?
No. We do a faux stereo with the amp setup.
And with the Boss DD3, is there a preference for digital delay over analog for any reason?
I think it's just it works. Yeah. It's a good basic toolbox pedal, you know. We can go anywhere in the world and buy one. And like the main thing running here is the Tube Screamer. It's an original one, and that's giving us all the gain for the rig. Okay,
so the gain doesn't really come from the amps.
Right.
So with the FET driver, which is another drive, what's he using that
random.
Kind of for?
Just random to change the tone for a solo or a piece of a chordal thing. What we're dealing with today is the Soar SL68, which is new to the lineup. We haven't used it live yet, so it's an amazing amp based on Van Halen's Magic Marshall. And we have a couple of old small box 50-watt Marshalls. We've been using one of them, the 50-watt Marshalls. This is the one we've been using. And we've been using this Diaz reverb, which seems to not be getting along with stuff today, so it's just there in case I go back to that amp during the show. If you see me running out here, freaking out, that's what's happening. And that's Cesar Diaz made that. Those are kind of rare. Yeah. All these cabinets are from '68.
What is it about the 68 cabs then?
Just started happening. They started showing up. And they all have stock Celestian greenbacks in them. And the second one belonged to Paul Kossoff. We bought it off Paul Rogers.
And so the Friedman's not going at the moment?
Not right now. That's the prototype Dirty Shirley 100 watt. And this is the secret. The JCM 2000 dual super lead 100 watt head with the clean channel and the EQ on 0, 0, 2, 0. And your gain, is that gain or volume? That's volume. Volume's on 8 and gain is on 10 on the clean channel, and the Tube Screamer, and that's the tone.
So that's basically set, just ready to go over the top with the Tube Screamer. Yeah,
and we don't let the EQ get involved because it could get messy, and we just add a little bit of mid. It's pretty cool. It's pretty sweet.
With the SIR going and this, is it splitting like?
Yes, we're splitting the signal. This is the DD3 and the Rotosphere. Okay. And this is the outside cabinets. The Soar is the middle 2 cabinets, or would be the Marshall, or maybe the Friedman, you never know. And so it's like a faux wet, dry, wet. It's not really stereo, but we've split it, so it is. And it was wet, wet, wet because of the reverb, but that wasn't behaving today, so we're just going to take the night off of that and see what happens. And this amp here is for the Theremin. It's a Category 5 Bonamassa model. It's kind of like a Jubilee in a combo. And we just run the Theremin through it with a couple of pedals and make a racket for a couple of minutes.
And what are the pedals on the Theremin?
Boss Digital Reverb and a Boss Digital Delay.
Is there anything special in terms of like the tubes and the Marshalls or anything?
No. They're all just whatever was in them when we got it.
All right.
All these things are holding the jacks from blowing out. And this rock I got in Italy months ago, and I've been carrying all over the world.
So it's pretty loud on stage, except you have the plexi.
Yeah, the Clear Sonic, and it's Signature, Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, nice.
As is the cables are Klotz Bonamassa cables, and we use Klotz Matthias Jabs speaker cables.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for
Thank
taking
you.
some time before the show to show us around.
You're welcome.
This is Rebecca Dirks for PremierGuitar.com.